So you best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Akerman.
Okay, I am back for another What's on My Desk. We're doing them on Wednesdays now, so What's on My Desk Wednesday. And just going to be working on a couple projects that I've had here. So you guys already may have seen me. I started on this one, this Meep figure, and was having some issues. So I'm going to work a little bit more on that one. I'm also going to work on these Mama Mud Thump goblins that I had worked on for the Zenithal priming video. Just going to do the eyes and the teeth. And if we have time, we'll work on a couple other things, but that's kind of what I've got for now. So I think I'm going to start with the Mama Mud Thump goblin. So all we're doing on here, we're gonna work on the eye. We've already done the skin tone, so we're just gonna work on the eyes, work on the teeth. I'll start with the eyes, and for that, I'm gonna start with a 5/0 brush. So this is a golden maple 5/0, and don't want the cap to roll away on here, so hold on, let me put that over here where I want to be able to see it. So this is a 5/0. Typically when I'm doing small details, I will use this. If I'm doing tiny details like pupils or things like that, I'll use a 10/0. But this is a good kind of starting point. So for eye color, typically I've got these two flat colors, and they're not very far off from each other. You got bismuth vandate and cadmium primrose. I think I'm gonna go with the bismuth vandate. Both of those are flat colors. I just got this fluorescent yellow. I may hit it with some of that as well. So I may do that over top of it. We'll see how that goes. And then for around the eye, I'm gonna just do a basic black. So black around the outline, and then yellow in the middle. And so here we go. So first typically I'll do the black on there first, and then I'll do the yellow, but I'm actually gonna start with the yellow and then just do the black outline. And you know, I don't know why, just because I decided to do it that way today. So let's get some yellow on our palette. This is the bismuth vandate from Flat. And I'm going to try, so when I did my eye tutorials, I did not actually do them on a figure because I thought it was gonna be way too difficult for you guys to see what I'm doing and for me to see what I'm doing both. But I'm gonna try, I've got a different setup here, and we'll try to see if this works. Let me see how far, okay, I can get to there before the magnifier gets into your guys' way. So hopefully you guys can see this here. I've got my magnifier just off screen, so that'll allow me to see what I'm painting and allow you to see what I'm doing, hopefully. So I've got some yellow on my paintbrush. I don't know if you can see that there, but I didn't go all the way to the end. Normally I would keep it a little bit down even further, but and I just want to make sure the consistency looks good. I think we're good there. And then I'm just going to paint on the inside of the eye here. And like I said on the eye tutorials, you want to make sure that you're claiming all that eye space. Even if it means that you go into the eyelid, that's fine, because we're going to touch that up anyway, but you don't want to lose any of the eye space. So that's what we're doing here. And we're just kind of filling up that area. So normally I try not to do too much editing on this What's on My Desk, but of course, right as I got into this and got it set up exactly the way I wanted to, my alarm went off saying that it was time to take my multivitamins, which stops the camera, so I had to start over. So I have taken my multivitamins. They're actually in my mouth right now because they are ones that have to melt. I had a bariatric surgery last year, and because of that, I can't absorb things as easily as I would in the past, and so I can't just take like a multivitamin pill. I have to actually have these ones that melt in my mouth and go into my, stream and stuff. So so if it sounds like I got something in my mouth, it's because I do. And normally I wouldn't do that, but this is a what's on my desk, which means that, you're going to get more of the raw kind of what's really happening. So, but back to this. So I've got my magnifier just off screen, working on these eyes and just trying to, claim all this eyeball space for myself. What I was saying before my alarm went off was that, I got some pretty good feedback from the last What's on My Desk one. I wasn't sure how people were going to take it because it's a lot more rambling. It's a lot more just, seeing mistakes and, the raw footage, I guess, so to speak. It's not as, user-friendly or for the casual viewer kind of thing. So I didn't know how that was going to go over, but it seemed like people kind of liked it. So we're going to make this an every week segment, or at least that's the goal, is to every Wednesday have one of these. So let me know in the comments if you like it, don't like it. I guess I'll see by the viewer count if people are watching or not, but yeah, right now I'm just kind of filling up this eye space. And like I said, if I go over a little bit, it's not the end of the world because we're going to do touch-ups. I've got 3 of these heads here, so just going to kind of keep working through it. A lot of people have asked me about like the paint on my thumb. If you haven't watched any of my other videos or heard me kind of talking about that, it's really to make sure that I got the right consistency of the paint. I did notice on that just there that some of the paint was going into the metal part, which I don't want because that's where you'll get your brushes to start being ruined. So just kind of clean that off real quick. We'll get some new paint on here. That's kind of what you're looking for, is where it's on the tip and not going into the metal part. And then I'll just apply it to my thumb and make sure that I've got, no clumpiness. Make sure it's thin enough. Like that seemed like it was a little too thick. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water. Don't want it too thick or too thin. So, and, really in this, like I said, when I was going through the eye tutorial and I was doing them on the cards, I got some comments like, oh, well, yeah, you're doing it on a card. Like I can do it on a card. It's the tiny spaces that's the problem. And really it's the same steps. It's just a matter of having the right magnification, practicing enough to have a steady hand, thinning your paints so that they're not clumpy, and it's basically the same kind of thing. So, as far as like making mistakes or not having it as detailed as you like, that's really just practice. So the more you practice it, the better off you get. But you also have, like this one is sculpted by Emil Wickman, and he does a really good job with the sculpting details to where you have the eyelids that are very raised and sculpted to where you know where to stop. Like where the eye should stop and the eyelid should begin because there's sculptural details for your brush to stop at. So, depending on the sculptor and the print and things like that can really help you out. And, like I talked in my eye videos, something like this where you just happen to do like a yellow and a black is much easier than, you know, your iris and pupil and all that kind of stuff. So this is a good one for people to start with. And I'm just working through each head. You know, you can definitely, if you're just working on one individual head, you can use a hair dryer or a heat gun to like dry these as you're going. So you can keep moving, or you can just have multiple projects that you're working on at once so that you can keep moving. I do have a heat gun. I will use it on occasion when I need to. If I've got a certain project that I'm trying to really focus on. But when I can work on multiple like this, that's my preferred method, because then you let this stuff air dry the way that it should, and just kind of go from there. So got the dogs next door barking, which surprisingly has not caused my dog to start barking, which is usually the case. So okay, so I've got the you know, the eyes, the initial coat painted on there. Like I said, if that was all, and you heard me kind of washing off my brush real quick, because I did see paint started creeping up into the metal part, and you just want to keep your brush as clean as you go. So I always, you know, there's a lot of different contraptions. You know, people talk about like ultrasonic cleaners and racks so you can hang them on and all this kind of stuff. If you just keep your brushes clean as you go, then you don't have to worry about that as much. But I will, if I've had a long, you know, painting session, I'll use some of this. It's kind of nasty right now, but this Master's brush cleaner works really well for cleaning your brushes as well. So if that was my only project I was working on, I would probably just use a heat gun and start, you know, working on the next layer on the eye, just to make sure that yellow is full coverage. But I've got other projects to work on, so I'm going to do that. So the other project was this Meep character that I was working on last time, and I want to add some more pinks and reds and stuff to this. So this is the Emperor's Children that I was using last time, which is, once again, still a terrible name. And I'm running low on that, so I ended up buying a new one. And I think I'm going to probably mix in some of this So Flat Naphthol pink. I think I'm going to maybe add some of that as well. So I'm going to actually, let's see, this one's the lighter color. So I think I'll actually dry brush this one on first and then go to the more of the children on top of that. So just get some of this on my palette and find a good dry brush for that. I'm gonna go with this one here. This is a golden number 5. Get some of that paint on there and grab my dry brush palette. Now, I just recently was using some green on here. I don't think it's still wet, but I'm gonna just try to make sure I get an area down here that maybe isn't hit as much, just because I don't want to get any transfer from the green. I'm just trying to get as much off of there as I can. Okay, and now I'll start hitting up my hand, which, you know, I already had some green on it, so I probably need to wash my hand here in a second, but Okay, so now I got it to the point where I'm looking at, so that's what I'm looking for right there, where I can see the skin, the lines of the skin, but I've hit the raised areas. Once I get it like that on my hand, I know that it's going to look like that on the figure. So then I can just start dry brushing here. So. And I don't know if you remember from last time, but it's supposed to have these like more purplish stripes across the side. I'm going to hit that up with either a purple color paint or maybe even a wash. But I want to try to avoid that as much as I can. I don't want to hit up those areas because that's just going to be more that I have to cover. So. And I hear my kids talking in the background. Oh, look at that. Did the same thing I did last time. Threw it right in my paint. Oh, boy. Folks, you know, apparently I didn't learn my lesson from the last time. What I was saying is I hear my kids talking in the background, and normally I would, you know, try to reduce all that noise that I can. But because this is a what's on your desk, which is more raw and the real stuff, and I'm not going to do that. You're just going to see the real, you know, what's going on. So whenever I do something stupid like that, just try to quickly grab like a tissue that I got next to me, and get some water on it, get that cleaned off of there. You still might have some areas that you have to touch up, but for the most part, you can get it to where, you know, you can get it back to where it was before. As long as the paint that you were using underneath of it was already dry, you know, usually you can kind of fix that up pretty quickly. So don't freak out. Mistakes happen. I just was hitting that with the dry brush pretty aggressively and just knocked it right out of my hand. The other thing is, and this is kind of what I was working on this Meep the other day, I noticed, because normally I would have stuff like this. I would have it on a stand, or I would have it on, let's see, like a stick like this, to where I can hold it and get a good grip on it. With this Meep, because it doesn't come apart and I don't have a better way of holding it, I'm just kind of holding them in my hand and brushing it, and it just flipped out of my hand the other day, and it just did the same thing here. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But I cleaned off most of that, and then I just go back to my dry brushing. Don't let it affect you. Don't let it, you know, don't lose your mind. Don't let it make you frustrated. Start making more mistakes. That's what I was doing the other day. So, I noticed on the picture that I got that his belly is kind of the brightest part of it. So I want to make sure I get that area really good. And, you know, there's these stripes here that we want to leave purple, but in between those stripes and on the bottom, there's supposed to be more of the kind of the pink color. So I'm gonna have to get a smaller dry brush and kind of hit up those areas. Okay. Move on to the head. I still got, need a little bit more on here. Okay, normally I'm pretty organized, but I misplaced my dry brush palette. Here we go. I'm going to use this side now. I don't want to get any of that green transfer. Same thing kind of goes here, like on the back of my hand. Like if I'm rubbing it across these areas, I'm trying to get it to where the pink is on the rocks and not on the spot in between. And you can see that like throughout here, the pink went in between, and I want to get it to the point where it's just on the rocks. So once I get it to that point, like that, that would be more kind of what I'm looking for. But I always hit my hand up afterwards and just make sure no clumps, areas of paint that are stuck in the brush, and make sure it looks that way that I want it to look. So. Okay, liking that. Do one more thing on this part before I move on. I want to get, there's some kind of those smaller areas that I want to hit up. So this is just this is a number 2 golden maple brush. I've also got some really small elf brushes that work really well for that. And just make sure I don't have too much paint on here. Okay, so I'm gonna try to hit up like this area right here between the stripes. So there's a stripe like under his arm and then one down lower. So I'm gonna hit up like this spot right here in between them. This spot on the hand a little bit. And then behind here, in between the 2 stripes. Over here, in between the 2 stripes. And then back to the front on this side, in between the 2 stripes. Make sure this arm looks good. Okay, and then the same thing around the bottom. There's like a ring around the bottom underneath that bottom stripe. Okay. So now I'm trying not to hit the feet because the feet are kind of similar to the color that I want it to be. But I'm going to have to touch those up a little bit anyway. So if it does hit the feet, it's not the end of the world. But just getting around that bottom ring there. And if you remember from last time, when we first did this, we had those feet, we had them covered with blue tack so that we couldn't get paint on those areas. But at some point, you have to, maybe get a little bit closer, and you may have to do some touch-up work. We were just trying to avoid as much of that as we could. So, we could either use some liquid mask or some blue tack here, but we're just gonna kind of hit these areas up, and then we'll touch up the feet as needed. Maybe not the most efficient way to do this because you're doing a lot of extra touch-up work, but you know, like I said, this is what's on my desk, and you're seeing the reality, and this is how I work. And sometimes it's just, you know, double and triple touching a lot of areas because I don't maybe choose the most effective way or efficient way of doing something. So, all right, so that's those areas, but I also have some on the head. So let me get a little bit of this. Okay, and I'm just gonna get like this area here, underneath the flap of this ear, down here at the base of these ears, that eyelid, this eyelid, side of the snout, this little goatee area underneath the teeth. Okay, I think that's where I'm gonna stop with that for now. I'm gonna go back to the Emperor's Children here in a little bit, but we gotta go back to these eyes. So move these back over here. And with this, I am just trying to, something to keep in mind on the dry brush. Normally I was talking about keeping your brush as clean as you go. The dry brushing, I don't worry about, especially if I'm going to keep, only if I'm going to keep dry brushing similar colors. Because if I get, let's say I moved the Emperor's Children, right, with this brush, and I've still got some of this color on it, it's just going to create a nice transition between this color and the Emperor's Children. So if I'm doing the same color or a similar color, I know I'm going to go back to the dry brushing. I'll leave that sit. What you don't want to do is leave that sit for days, though. It'll stiffen up those brushes and it won't work real well for you. But if I'm doing it in one session like this, I'll leave the dry brushes kind of go. But any sort of detail brush like this, I'm definitely going to clean as I work. So I'm going back to the same color on the yellow, and I'm just making sure that I've got, no faded spots. Like when you paint it the first time, like first layer of coat, paint, you may have certain spots where you can see through it, like the paint didn't get it as opaque as you wanted to be, and you're seeing like whatever the prime color was underneath of it. And so we're just making sure we're filling that all the way with this yellow. So I don't know if you can see that there, but basically around the outside it looks yellow, but in the middle it kind of looks green. And so I'm just filling this whole thing up and making sure that I got the yellow kind of all the way through. Now, if you wanted to, even if you're doing one solid color like the yellow here, if you wanted to create like a glow effect, what you could do is you could put a little bit of white, similar to how we did the zenithal priming from the top of this. If you did some white in the middle of the eye and then painted over it with the yellow, that spot where you had white is going to be a little bit lighter, even though you've painted over it with yellow. That's going to show through a little bit, and it's going to create like this lighter spot in the middle and then darker on the outside, which is going to give you somewhat of a glow effect. And then if you really wanted to have it like do a glow effect, what you could do is take some of that paint and do some dry brushing around the inside of the eyelid, or around the eyelids, so that it looks like it's like coming out. Like, so it starts with this bright almost white in the middle, gets darker, and then on the outside around the eye you've got this like the color is still going. So just a little pointer on that as far as doing glowing eyes. If you want to see some really good glowing eyes, go check out Matt Stein, 13Z Customs on Instagram. I think he does the best glowing eyes around. So a lot of people talk about his patina, which we did a how'd you do that with him, talking about the patina, but I think his real thing that he does the best is his glowing eyes. Like, they're just spectacular. But, you know, as I said in that video, like, he does a lot of things well. He's not a one-trick pony. So we're going through here and just, once again, hitting up these details on the eyes. Make sure we got that yellow all the way through. You can see, I don't know if you saw that right there, but I hit that top of that eyelid with some of the yellow. Once again, that's okay. We're gonna cover the outside of this with black anyway. And even if we weren't, let's say I went further than where the black is gonna go, you know, we can also touch that up as far as the skin tone with the green and stuff. So, okay. So I feel like that's pretty good coverage on that yellow. We'll come back to that and outline the outside with black. Maybe do a little bit of that fluorescent in the middle, and then we'll work on the teeth. So while that dries, I'm going to go back to the Meep, and I'm going to use this old Emperor's Children that we had. There's still some in here. It's getting low and it's not wanting to kind of pour. So I'm actually just going to dip. Actually, you know what I'll do? Use one of these little popsicle stick things, and I'm just going to kind of scrape some of that out of there. So there we go. These Citadel pots are the worst. Love their colors, love the coverage. Their pots are the worst. And at this point, I'm going to work on cleaning my hands because I don't have much spot left to dry brush. So I'm just going to get out an alcohol swab. And, you know, I could just go to the sink. This is all acrylic-based paint, so I could go to the sink and wash it off in a couple seconds. But, you know, we're trying to keep this thing running. So, so yeah, a little alcohol swab, get this stuff off. Grab another. Okay, and now I'm back to having some area to dry brush on. So, not perfect, but I'm going to be painting on it anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, so let me get some of this Emperor's Children. Get my dry brush palette out. Okay, looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna start applying it to the figure, trying to make sure that I'm holding on to it and not throwing it into my paint. Smear that on there. Okay. I think, considering throwing a wash on here, could do this volupus pink on there. That might be good. I might hit it up with a contrast and then finish off some dry brushing. So let me finish this part of it, and then I think I might hit it up with a contrast on there. So this is just kind of the experimental stage of this. So yeah, I think I'm going to hit that up with a contrast once that fully dries. You don't want to hit a wash or a contrast or anything like that. You don't want to do while you've got paint still drying on it, because you don't want it to like smear or blend that paint. So you want to make sure that dries first. So this point, you know, back to working on these goblin eyes, and I'm going to work on the black going around the outside. So let me get some So Flat black. And I see that I'm starting to get some kind of peeling up on my parchment paper on my wet palette. That usually means you don't have enough water in there. If you look down there at the side, I've got, like, there's no water pooling here. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of water, pour some into that, and then let that kind of go across the sponge. You don't want like the water just sitting there, but when you hold it to one side, you should see it pool a little bit. So kind of moving it across the sponge underneath. And so now if I hold it this way, you see it kind of pool up in the corner there. So now I can, you know, hopefully this will start kind of re-adhering. You know, I could always kind of roll over it with an X-Acto knife, which is what I usually do to get it to adhere real well. So, but I've got my black paint down. We're gonna start working on that black line around the eyes. So here we go. Let's start with this one. Get some water. You don't want this so watery that it's going to run into the color that you just painted, but you don't want it super thick either. So you want it kind of in between that. A lot of people say like the consistency of milk. So I don't know, take that for how you will. I just think that's interesting when people say consistency of milk. It's like, oh, it's just a weird thing when you're painting to think about milk, but all right, so we've painted the yellows of the eyes, and now we're going around and outlining it. Normally, like if I was doing, let's say, a human eye, I would do black around it, but then I would use the flesh tone to make it really thin so that it doesn't look like makeup. It looks more like just a shadow. With a goblin, a lot of times the goblins have like almost like a thick black line around the outside to where it looks almost like mascara. On top of this is Mama Mud Thump, and if you know any of the Mud Thump lore, if you don't, you can go to godsfireseries.com. But Mama is raising a bunch of kids on her own. Bobo, which is her husband, just kind of left her. We don't know if he's dead, if he's missing, what's going on. But she's kind of raising these kids on her own, and it's a little crime syndicate goblin family. And she's also, always kind of on the lookout for a new man to help out around, carry the weight. So she usually tries to pretty herself up and look pretty nice. So if this does look a little bit more like mascara around that actually works to our benefit based on the story. So what I'm doing here, I'm just kind of trying to get the eyelid sculpt itself. So probably going to talk a little bit less as I do this, but some of you may be saying, yay. But if I go into the yellow too far, it's not the end of the world. I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. But we can still touch up that yellow after the fact. So, don't lose your mind if you go over the yellow. There's a lot of back and forth with this stuff. You work on the yellow part, then you work on the black. Then you might have to touch up some yellow. Then as you touch up the yellow, you might have to touch up some black. And then you eventually get to a point where you go, you know what, that's pretty good, and I'm going to go ahead and call it there. So as we did that eye, I definitely went into the yellow a little bit more than I wanted to. But that's okay. And right there, I just my brush completely went into the yellow, so that's not what I wanted at all. But I'm trying to see what I'm doing with this magnifier at the same time as showing you guys, and sometimes that makes it a little difficult. So we got an area we definitely need to touch up there. And the way that this sculpt is, her one eye is actually a little bit bigger than the other, like it's more open. So we want to keep that in mind too as we go through this. All right, so we've definitely got some touch-up work to do on there, but good start. What I may do, normally on this part, I would just stick with a 5/0. But because I'm trying to paint these tiny details and show you what's going on, it makes it a little bit difficult the way I've got this magnifier set up. So I may switch to a 10/0 as I start to do the touch-ups, just to give myself a little bit more flexibility in terms of where I'm going with the brush. I know I've kind of, people talk about what's the tiniest brush I can use and all this and that, and there are definitely benefits to having a small brush, but typically I find it that you want to use the biggest brush that you can for the job to still get it done. So obviously there's going to be times where you need a smaller brush, but smaller brush also means it's going to hold less paint, and it means the paint on your brush is going to dry quicker, which can also make it more difficult. So having a bigger brush gives you more paint and gives you a longer working time, but also it doesn't give you as much precision. So there's a trade-off. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you can do a certain detail with, let's say, a 5/0 or a 3/0, if you can manage that, then that's what I would use instead of like a 10/0 or some sort of, psycho brush or whatever that, is like super tiny. There's definitely times where you're going to need that really tiny brush, but when you don't need it, all you're doing is causing yourself a lot more working time, doing it, because you don't have as much coverage area, you don't have as much paint on your brush, all that kind of stuff. So let's see if I can get this a little bit closer on the magnifier without getting in your guys' way. And you see I'm kind of turning this as I'm doing it, just trying to make sure I get the best angle for how I'm coming at it. I'm right-handed, so I'm trying to work left to right. And in order to do that, I've got to turn the figure, or turn the part that I'm doing to make sure that I can, go left to right. I can definitely go right to left if I need to, but it's not as smooth. So, all right. The So-Flat, one of the good things about the So-Flat paints is they do dry very quickly. So you can see this is the first head that I did the black around, and I went to the other two. As I come back here, the black's already, you can see the flatness of it. It's already really dry. So I can now go back to the yellow and just kind of do some touch-up work on the inside of that black. And once again, if you got to do a little back and forth, you got to do a little yellow, a little black, little yellow, black. Which I guess that's not super easy to say. I was just stumbling there. Little yellow, little black. But yeah, if you got to go back and forth a little bit, that's kind of the nature of the beast. So don't get all upset about it. I mean, I guess you can get upset about it. It's your paint job. You do what you want, but it's not going to benefit you too much. Okay, so here I went a little bit into that black part. Had I gone further, like let's say that I went up here into the eyebrow where I don't want to do, I could always get like one of my little cotton swabs and get some water on it and wipe it off. But because it's in that black area that we're still in the process of touching up and painting, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'll just touch that up as I go. So then looking at this other eye, and you know what? I had mentioned switching brushes, and then I didn't. So let me grab a 10/0. Should have one around here somewhere. Here we go. So this is a golden maple 10/0, and just a little bit smaller than the 5/0. It's gonna give me a little bit more control. So, all right, here we go. And this one looks fairly decent, actually. So here's one thing. I was using the paint palette on my thumb, like to make sure I got the consistency. You got to make sure that you don't go over a wet paint with another wet paint. So I just had yellow on my brush, swiped it on my thumb, and I don't know if you guys can see it there, but it picked up some of the black, and we don't want that. So luckily I did that on my thumb and not on the figure, because that would have put a black smear all through the middle of the yellow eye, and that would have been bad. So all right. So now I'm just going through and touching up a little bit of that yellow. Making sure that we have nice tight lines. And you know, it's not as important on a goblin where you're doing just the yellows as it is on like a human eye. As far as the not giving up space, normally on the human eye I say, you know, hey, you don't want to give any of that eye space away. because you still got to paint an iris and a pupil and all this kind of stuff. And on a goblin, you're not doing all that extra work in the middle, so it's not as important to make sure you take up that whole space. But you still want to, you know, make sure that you're giving yourself enough room to do that. Got a little water on my brush and it's seeping down, so hold on 1 second. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough room to paint the eye in a good way. So, all right. So you still don't want to really give up that space in the eye, because these figures are very small themselves, and that means their eyes are even more small than that. And so you want people to be able to see them, and the best way to see them is to make sure that you're not losing that real estate. So see, like right there, I saw there was a pretty big portion of the eyeball that we painted with the black, and that's not what we want. We want that space for the eyeball itself. There could be a situation where you want to kind of make that eyelid go into that eyeball space. You know, if you wanted it to have more of like a squinting look or something like that. But in most cases, you want to just, yeah, claim that space for yourself. So, okay. Did some touch up on the yellow. I'll need to go back, do some touch up on the black. But for right now, I'm gonna take a quick break and I will be right back. I'm back and I'm gonna do some contrast stuff now. I'm gonna do some pink on this, the main part of the body of this, and I'm also gonna do some purple on those stripes. I just gotta find a purple contrast that I like. I think we'll go with this one, this Malagos purple for the stripes. So I'm gonna shake that up, and I'll probably use, let's see, use this number 2 for the pink. Pretty good coverage on this, but I can still get into nice spaces. So I'm just gonna kind of cover, do a little test on the neck here. Yeah, I kind of like that. That looks good. So yep, just gonna kind of cover this except for the feet and the inside of the ears and those 2 stripes that we talked about. All the rest of it, though, I am gonna cover. So, and I talked about this a little bit in the Zenithal priming video, but with contrast paints, they are more like, almost like an ink, like they're very concentrated but liquidy. And so you want to make sure that you work with them fairly quickly. What you don't want to do is continue to like rub your brush across it and stuff as it's drying. That's going to sometimes cause it to either look splotchy or, you know, smear and things like that. So just something to be aware of. So I'm getting in between those 2 stripes there. But yeah, the working time, I would say, on a contrast paint is considerably less than like your regular paints, just because it is so thin and it's so concentrated. So and this because these pieces on this thing does not come apart, it makes it difficult to figure out kind of like, where am I going to hold this thing? But we'll make it work. So like right now I'm holding it by the top of the neck and the feet. The top of the neck I just painted with a contrast paint, so I'm actually getting my thumb in the contrast, but it's going to be covered by the head anyway, so it's not the end of the world if that gets smeared a little bit. And the bottom of the feet I'm not going to try to get with this color anyhow, so should be good with that. So hopefully that allows me to paint this entire thing without having to wait for one thing to dry and then working on the next thing. So the good thing about contrast paints, because they're so thin and because they're so concentrated, it allows you to get into tight crevices. So if you've got sculptural details and you're trying to make, the crevice areas darker and then the raised areas lighter, contrast paint's a nice way to do that, because it'll fill those areas pretty quickly and easily. Okay. I just got a bunch on my brush there, like way into the metal part, so I'm definitely going to need to clean that here soon. I don't want that drying in the metal part of the brush. So let me rinse that off. Hopefully you guys have been able to see what I've been doing. I'm looking at the contraption that holds my phone for this, kind of blocks some of the vision of the screen. So like I have an idea of what you guys are able to see, but not exactly what you're able to see. So I just hope as I'm going through this that you're kind of seeing what I'm actually working on, and that it's not mostly off screen. If so, I might have to do a little bit more editing than I try to do on these segments, because clearly you don't want to just hear me talk while I'm not showing you what I'm working on the whole time. So like right there, I think that's on screen. There we go. I just need to move it a little bit closer. So yeah, so if there's been any of this that you haven't been able to see, I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on getting that picture to be the best that I can. So now I am going to, once this is done and dried, I'm still going to dry brush over this. So if there are areas that kind of get a little bit darker than others, that's okay. Because I'm still going to do some dry brushing. And while I'm dry brushing, I can make sure that I get those kind of evened out a little bit. Makes it a little bit easier to blend it as you're dry brushing. So, all right, let's see, we got that stripe. Got that stripe. Got to finish this hand. Didn't get that. Okay. Stripe's a little uneven. Let me try to even that out a bit. Kind of goes up over here, and I want to make sure it does the same thing on this side. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. Work on the head. The only areas I really don't want to get on here are the underside of the ears, the teeth, and the eyes. But everything else I can go ahead and cover. Trying not to get the contrast on the eyes, but I need to get it up to the eyes. So that might mean that it gets on some of the area, but that's all right. We still got to paint the eyes after the fact. So, you know, not the end of the world. Just like I just got some on the tooth, but I still got to paint the teeth anyway. So whatever, it's all right. think this might be getting to more of the color that Jesse was actually looking for anyway. He said something of like almost like a burgundy. This definitely looks more burgundy than it did before. So, or like a burgundy-ish pink, like pink, but with a burgundy tint to it or something, or, you know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this comes out. I was not real happy with the color that we had, and so I figured let's try a contrast and see what it looks like. And I think this is looking better. So we'll see. Finish the contrast, do a little dry brushing, see what we end up with. So now here on the ear part, I'm trying to get the outside of the ear, but not the inside, because that inside is definitely like a more like purplish color. Okay. I'm definitely getting way more contrast, like further down on the paintbrush than I normally would like. But that's all right. I'm trying to work quickly on this, and so I can't. I could have poured some of this out on my palette, but I'm just working directly from the bottle, and sometimes it's hard to see, you know, how much depth there is left on the bottle. So a couple times I've gone way too far down, but that's all right. Okay. I think some heavier stuff right here, so I don't want that pooling up and getting too dark. But I think that's starting to look good. Okay, put that to the side. We still got the purple to do on there. But let's get back to these eyes and try to finish those up. Okay, so we just did the yellow on them. Now we're going back to the black. Get my 10/0 and just take a look at this and see what we've got. So, all right, so this one we definitely hit. Oop, knock my head over. Let me move that to the side. Make sure I don't have any contrast paints open that I'm going to spill. That's the worst. Like if you knock over a regular paint palette, it's usually or regular paint pot, the paint's not going to usually go everywhere. But if you knock over a contrast one, because it's so thin, yeah, it's going to be quite the mess. All right, so this eye here, we definitely got a bunch on the upper eyelid. So let's tighten that up. Okay. This eye is pretty good. There's like one spot down here in this bottom eyelid. Get a little bit more paint on here. Get Nice fine tip. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I want to put a little bit of that fluorescent yellow in the middle to finish this off, but I think that eye otherwise looks pretty good. Let's see, this one, we went down into the eyelid on the bottom. Okay. Sometimes when I'm painting these really tiny details, I also will tend to hold my breath. And I think that's a common thing. Just be careful that you take some time to breathe every now and then. Okay, so I definitely went into the yellow on that, so I'm going to have to touch up that yellow. This one looks pretty good. As far as the overall shape of it, looks good. Okay. So that one, I got to touch up the right eye on that. I'm going to put that to the side. On this one, there's definitely a spot on this upper eyelid. Let's go ahead and get that. Okay. Looks good. This other one. Looks like pretty good shape, just a little bit jagged on that upper eyelid. So just trying to straighten that out, tighten that up a little bit. And then right here in the corner. That's me in the corner. Probably could do with a little touch up on the yellow one there and a little bit on that one. So put that to the side. I think this one is pretty good. It could use a little bit of touch up on yellow as well. So we'll just touch that up with the fluorescent. We'll give that a chance to dry for a second. And while that's drying, I will start working on the teeth. I'm going to put the Meep away for now because I think we're going to be running long on time. So I'm going to put the Meep away. We'll finish that another day. Let me work on the teeth on these goblins. So for teeth, I do it a variety of different ways, but I think for this one, I'm going to use some Wraithbone from Citadel. Obviously, I've put it in a different dropper bottle because Citadel bottles suck. And you can see that's not mixed up real well. It's looking like crap. So let me mix that up a little bit better. I'll actually put that on my shaker. So you're hearing the vibrator right now. And something just fell off my desk. I'm not sure what. And so there's just like these two tiny little teeth sticking out. And I'm going to hit it really easily with this Wraithbone. Normally if it was like bigger, like tusk and stuff, I would probably hit it with like a contrast paint or a wash or something. We'll see. We'll see if I do that here. I'm not sure. You can see that's definitely mixed up a lot better now. Because they're not real big. So, you know, I don't have a lot to work with here. So I don't know that the contrast is going to do a whole lot. So let's see what happens. Definitely want to water this down a little bit. And I am using the 10/0 on this, just because these teeth are super small. Okay. All right, so let's see, that's as close as I can get. Okay, so make sure I've got the right amount and the right consistency on there. And let's just hit that up. Like I said, if this was a bigger, like a whole set of teeth or a tusk or something that was really big, I would probably hit it with either, let's see, probably either an Agrax Earthshade or a, let's see, Seraphim Sepia. Seraphim Sepia would probably be that. Or I could hit it with like a Skeleton Horde contrast paint. And that's going to hit all those like crevices between the teeth. And, you know, if it was tusk and it had like grains or like just details within the tusk, it would hit all those spots and really bring out the depth of the color and stuff. Because these two teeth are so small, I don't think that's really going to do anything. So I think that would be A, a waste of time, and B, potentially cause a mess. So we're not going to do that here. But we're just trying to cover these two tusks. Make sure you get the back side as well. So yeah, I think that's about the gist of it here. So and because it's such a light color and it was like a dark green, you may have to go over and hit it again, which is not the end of the world. I think I say that a lot. It's not the end of the world. Nothing you're doing, you're painting, right? You're having fun. You're just, you know, this is a hobby. None of this is going to be the end of the world. So I guess I don't need to say that as much, but you don't need to freak out either. It's like anything can be fixed. So even if you drop a bottle of contrast paints, you know, there's more contrast paints out there in the world, and you can clean up the area that you spilled it in. So yeah, I guess just don't take this stuff too seriously. Okay. And one last one. And one thing I'm noticing as I'm doing this and going through and making these videos for you guys, there's often times where I'm putting too much paint on my paint palette to where I'm wasting a lot of it. And I probably need to control that a little bit better. So maybe a lesson that you can learn from me there is just, you know, only put what you're going to need. Because you can always add some more. Now, if you're mixing a very specific color that, you know, it takes multiple colors to get there, you'd rather have too much than not enough. Because, you know, let's say you're mixing a very specific skin tone or something, and you run out, and then you don't remember the right ratios, or you can't get back to the right ratios, that may cause you some problems. So in that instance, maybe it's better to have a little bit more. But if you're just using it straight out of the bottle like I was with this yellow or the Wraithbone or whatever, yeah, you probably don't need to put as much in your palette as I am. Sorry about that. All right. Now we're going to go back to those eyes. I'm going to get some of this fluorescent yellow. Throw this down here. And what I might do is just take some of this yellow from earlier and mix it with that fluorescent. They're not terribly different colors, but just to kind of make it a little bit closer blend. Okay. And now I'm just gonna touch up any last areas that I had on this, and hopefully not go back into the black, so that this would be the last touch up that I do. I think that fluorescent's going to give it a nice kind of finish color on it that's going to make them not glow per se, but just look a little bit brighter, stand out a little bit. So just had to stop for a second because I'm sitting here painting this and I'm thinking, man, I'm seeing these eyes really well. I wonder if they're able to see it. I had to look at my camera and it did look like it was still in camera, so that's good. I've got a little tiny bit that I think I'm going to need to touch up on that one on the black, so I'm going to put that over here. Work on this last one. Happy with. Just one little spot here. Get a little bit more paint. Hey. Yeah, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm just finishing these eyes here. Yep. So now, I was just alerted that kids need to take showers, which is always a good thing because you don't want them smelling. But that bathroom that they take the showers in is right next to my studio, and so they're worried about making too much noise. So now it's like the pressure's on. Gotta finish. So, but that's all right. We're almost done. So We're getting really close. All right. Get a little black here. All right, what was the area? It was on this eyelid, right? Let me see. Can get it that close. Okay. So it's just this eyelid here. And let's see, I dipped it down into it. I don't wanna falter under the pressure now. We're almost there. Okay, pretty happy with that. Take a look at this one. This one we had some area in the corner that needed to be touched up. Beautiful. There's a little spot in the yellow that needs to be, I can see the primer still coming through. So a little spot there that I need to grab with the yellow, but let me make sure I'm good on the black here. And this one, it's got a big spot of yellow that still needs to be done. So 2 more bits of yellow. Hopefully we got this. I'll take a double check on the teeth, make sure I don't need to touch any of that up, and then we will be good. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, that one I'm kind of messing up there. I think it might be faltering under the pressure of kids needing to shower. Let's see, this one, we just said we needed to touch up just a little bit right here. And that's fine. Okay, I'm gonna call this one done. Let me take a look. I'm gonna call, this one's got a little tiny spot. And, you know, a lot of this is just me being super particular because I'm looking at it through a magnifying glass. This is not like the part that I'm touching up right now is not a part that you're going to be able to see with the naked eye. But I know that it's there, and so I've got to fix it. Okay. A little bit more. This one eye is just a little bit smaller than the other, and the shape of it makes it interesting to get that whole surface. So that's almost there. This one we have, do a little bit more yellow here, like the actual yellow that we used initially. That's way too much on my brush, but that's all right. Okay. Okay. This. Gotta touch up just a little bit of black. Okay, piece over here. Okay, we're calling that one done. So 2 down, 1 to go. Just gotta touch up this one eyelid here. Okay, we're gonna call that one done. Just double check. Yeah, we're gonna call that one done. Let me take a look at the teeth real quick. I think that one looks good. This one looks good. This one, that tooth needs a little touch up. Hit that real quick. I can still see kind of the green primer coming through a little bit on this one. So just want to hit that up with a little bit more wraith bone. All right, we're gonna call that done on there. So the only thing left to do on these for these heads would be gloss the eyes, gloss the teeth, maybe even put a little bit of you know, gloss on the bottom lip. I may actually change the color of that lip a little bit. I may put a little bit of a not like red lipstick, but I may put some red with some green and just lighten those up a little bit. But I'll do that next time because I'm going to work on the wig for this. And the wig is going to be kind of a dirty blonde that we're going to be trying to do. For these, we got three wigs for this. And then I've also got a Marvel Legends Angel that I'm going to try to add a little bit more depth to the color of his hair. So that's what we're calling it for today. Hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you throw a like and a you know, comment what you enjoyed. If you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. This is what this segment's going to be. This what's on your desk is going to be longer, less edited, you know, more rambling, the real stuff, the mistakes, that kind of thing. But basically, here's where we're at with those goblins. You know, got 3 of those. We'll work on the hair next time as well as those lips. Here's kind of where we're at with the Meep right now. We got to do the contrast on those stripes. Got to work on the eyes and teeth. Contrast on the under part of the ears. So yeah, and then do some extra dry brushing. So that's where we're at. Hope that you enjoyed this. And till next time, keep creating, folks. Okay, just a quick follow-up. I know I said I was done, but a quick follow-up. After I stopped filming, I was just kind of in the mood to keep painting. But spoiler alert, I'm having to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on how long these videos are getting, because I'm running out of space on my camera, and I'm deleting the videos after I upload them, but I just don't have enough storage space. So I think I need to get a new phone so that I have more room. But anyway, after I finished filming, I was like, I should probably cut it short, because not short, but the video is already a couple hours long. But I need to just stop recording because this is getting a little long. And I was still in the mood to keep painting. So long story short, too late. It already is too long. I finished up the Meep and at least the goblins with everything except for the wigs. So just wanted to show those. So this is one of the goblins. Here is another. And I'm hoping that those are coming in clear. I can't see because of where the arm is on this holder, but I think hopefully that's coming in clear. That's the third one. So that's all 3 goblin heads. And then here is the finished Meep. So I will shoot a picture to Jesse. I mean, for starting off with like 0 sculpted fur on here pretty much, and just adding green stuff with some lines in it, and then some you know, Valhalla Blizzard and some other, you know, just texture paints to create the fur look. I think it came out looking pretty decent. I like the finished color. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So those are working on today. I am now officially done. This is the end of this What's on Your Desk Wednesday, and we'll see you guys next week to see what I come up with then. So talk to you folks later, and until next time, keep creating, folks.